In a secret military trial, a female officer faces death for a false crime until her loyal K-9 storms the court, carrying the truth that could save her. Captain Sarah Kane, for the crime of ordering your K-9 to attack civilians. This tribunal sentences you to death by firing squad. General Amos Tate's voice thundered, a guillotine slicing through the suffocating silence of the military courtroom. Its oak-paneled walls a claustrophobic cage, the air thick with the scent of polished wood, stale coffee, and the acrid tang of fear. And Sarah, standing at the defendant's table in her pressed army fatigues, her dark hair pulled into a severe bun, her green eyes flooding with tears, let out a raw, guttural sob, her knees buckling as the verdict tore through her like shrapnel, her heart a splintered wreck because the accusation was a monstrous lie. She'd shielded that border village. Her orders to protect, not destroy, etched in her soul, and Sarah's cries reverberated, a desperate wail that echoed off the walls, her hands gripping the table's edge, her nails digging into the wood, her voice a broken shard. I didn't do it, I swear. But the gallery of high-ranking officers, colonels, majors, their medals glinting under the dim chandeliers, stared with eyes of stone, their silence a condemnation. And Sarah's gaze darted to the steel doors where Shadow, her German Shepherd K-9, was caged outside. His absence a wound deeper than the sentence, a betrayal that cut through the fog of her tears, because Shadow had been her shadow through desert patrols, his loyalty the only constant in a world that had turned against her. And now, as the tribunal's judgment loomed like a noose, Sarah's sobs were a prayer, a plea for the one soul who'd never abandoned her. Her mind flashing to their last mission, a village ablaze, her voice shouting, "Protect," as Shadow herded children to safety, the memory a lifeline she clung to amidst the courtroom's cold verdict. The room was a crucible, the officers' whispers a low hum, their faces a mosaic of skepticism and disdain. And Tate, his grizzled features unyielding, sat like a monarch of fate, his verdict final, while Colonel Marcus Reed, the prosecutor, a lean man with eyes like chip-beat ice, stood triumphant, his case a tapestry of lies, forged photographs of bloodied villagers, falsified logs claiming Sarah's command to unleash the dome, and a coerced testimony from Private Daniels, a boy barely 20, his voice trembling, his eyes darting to Reed. She ordered Shadow to attack. "Sir," and Sarah's blood boiled, her tears burning, because Daniels had been at her side, had seen her risk her life for those villagers, but fear or bribes had twisted his tongue, and her lawyer, Major Elena Voss, a sharp woman with a voice strained by doubt, countered feebly. No direct evidence proves Captain Kane's intent. But the tribunal's panel, 5 officers, their faces carved from duty, seemed unmoved. Their nods to Reed a silent agreement, and Sarah's hope crumbled. Her unit's betrayal a knife, comrades she'd bled with in sand-swept outposts now absent, their refusal to testify a second death, and the gallery's murmurs swelled, a colonel's whisper. "She's finished," cutting like a blade. But Sarah's eyes clung to the doors, a desperate prayer for Shadow, her partner through ambushes and gunfire. The German Shepherd who'd slept at her feet under starless skies, his warmth her anchor when the world turned dark, and the room froze as a commotion erupted outside, a deep, resonant bark shattering the silence. Shadow's frantic howl, a clarion call that pierced the courtroom's stillness, a lifeline that snapped Sarah's tears to a gasp of hope, and the steel doors slammed open. The German Shepherd charging through, his black and tan coat matted with sweat, his eyes blazing with loyalty, his barks a deafening roar that sent guards stumbling, their hands fumbling for batons. And Tate's hand shot up, his voice sharp. "Hold! Check my vest!" And an aide, hands shaking, retrieved a hidden camera device pinned beneath Tate's robe, its lens glinting, a secret planted by an unseen ally. And Sarah's heart surged, her sobs choking into silence, her voice a trembling whisper. "Shadow, you found it." The courtroom erupted, officers gasping, their chairs scraping, a major shouting. "What is this?" And Tate's gavel pounded. "Silence! Play the footage, now!" But the guards hesitated. Shadow's barks unrelenting, his presence a vow at Sarah's side, his massive frame a shield as he stood between her and the tribunal. And Tate's aide, sweat beading, connected the device. A screen descending, the officers leaning forward, their breaths held as the video played, a village under siege, gunfire cracking, smoke choking the air. Sarah's voice clear. "Shadow, guard the civilians. Protect." The German shepherd herding villagers to safety, shielding a child from a grenade's blast. His movements precise, heroic. No attack, only sacrifice. And the room quaked, gasps turning to shouts, Reed's face draining to ash, his forged evidence, photos, logs, Daniel's lies exposed as a sham, and Sarah's tears fell anew. Not of despair, but of salvation. Shadow's muzzle pressing against her hand, a lifeline through the storm. His warmth grounding her as the tribunal's order dissolved into chaos. Officers arguing, a colonel demanding, "Who falsified this?" But Tate's voice sliced through. "This court stands adjourned. Kane, you're released on bail, pending investigation." His tone laced with unease, as if he sensed the conspiracy's roots burrowing deep. The officers stirred, a major muttering, "This reeks of a setup." But danger slithered, a hooded figure in the gallery, a shadowed man, his radio crackling, slipping away, a promise of vengeance. And Sarah, unshackled in a guarded holding cell, knelt with Shadow, her arms around his neck. Her voice assuaged, "You saved my life, boy." But a new threat struck. A note slid under the door. "You're not free yet." And Sarah's blood chilled, because the video had cracked a conspiracy, exposing a network of corruption. And she met Voss, her voice steady despite her tears. "Elena, trace those photos. Find who did this." The courthouse was a sealed fortress, its halls silent, the officers' whispers a warning, and Sarah's trust wavered. Her unit's betrayal a wound, the hooded man's shadow a threat, and she stood, Shadow at her side, her resolve a sword, because the video was a spark. But the war was far from won. The conspirators plotting, the truth a flame she'd guard, and Sarah Kane, the officer who'd stared down execution, was ready to face the storm. Her pain a forge, her bond with Shadow a crown, and this tribunal her battlefield. The traitor's hand a specter she'd hunt, the path to justice a fight she'd wage for her honor, her day, her truth. The military base was a labyrinth of shadows, its concrete corridors lit by flickering fluorescence, the air thick with the scent of gun oil and the distant hum of generators. As Captain Sarah Kane moved silently through a restricted archive room, her army fatigues a stark contrast to the sterile gloom, her dark hair loose from its bun, her green eyes sharp with a fire rekindled by her narrow escape from a death sentence, her heart a pounding drum because the secret tribunal's verdict, death by firing squad, still echoed. And Shadow, her German shepherd K9, padded at her side, his black and tan coat scarred from battles, his eyes alert, his presence a lifeline after he'd triggered the revelation of a hidden camera that proved her innocence. And Sarah's resolve was iron, forged in the crucible of betrayal, because the forged evidence, photos, logs, a coerced private's lies, had nearly buried her. And now, with the tribunal adjourned and her on bail, she was hunting the truth. A truth tied to Colonel Marcus Reed, the prosecutor whose cold eyes had haunted her trial. But danger was a breath away. A scrawled note, "You're not free yet," burning in her mind, a warning that the conspirators were closing in. And Sarah, her unit's silence a wound, knew this fight wasn't just for her honor. It was for Shadow, for justice, for the villagers she'd sworn to protect. And she'd face the storm, her pain a forge, her bond with Shadow a crown. The archive was a vault of secrets, its files locked behind its steel cabinets, and Sarah, her fingers trembling, pried open a drawer. Voss's intel, Major Elena Voss, her lawyer, a tenacious ally, pointing to Reed's coded memos. And Sarah's pulse raced, because Reed wasn't just a prosecutor, he was a puppet master. His case against her too precise, too vicious. And Shadow's low growl snapped her focus. His ears pricked, his body tensing, and Sarah froze, a faint scuff echoing from the corridor, a shadow moving, and her hand dropped to her sidearm, her voice a hiss. "Shadow, stay!" But the dog's instincts were razor sharp, his barks erupting, a deep, resonant warning that echoed off the walls, and a figure lunged, a hooded assailant, knife glinting, his strike aimed at Sarah's throat. But Shadow surged, his teeth sinking into the man's arm, a yelp splitting the air, and Sarah fired, her shot grazing the attacker's shoulder, blood spraying, the man fleeing into the darkness, his radio crackling. "She's alive! Pull back!" And Sarah's blood chilled, because this wasn't a random hit. It was a conspiracy's claw, and Shadow's protection had saved her, his loyalty a shield against the storm. The base was a hornet's nest, MPs swarming, their flashlights slicing the gloom, and Sarah, her sidearm holstered, knelt with Shadow, her hands checking his scars, her voice a whisper. "Good boy, you're my heart." But Voss's arrival, her face pale, brought a new blow. "Sarah, Reed's memos mention a Vance, Colonel Vance, high command, linked to Black Ops." And Sarah's gut twisted, because Vance was a ghost, a name whispered in war zones, tied to atrocities she'd glimpsed in that village. And the camera's footage, Sarah shielding civilians, threatened his secrets, explaining the frame-up. But a deeper wound struck, a coded message, intercepted by Voss, warning of a hit on Sarah's sister, Emily, in a nearby civilian town. And Sarah's heart seized. Emily's voice from their last call, "Sarah, I'm scared for you," a wound that bled anew. And she ordered Voss, "Get MPs to Emily's house, now." But Voss's hesitation, a flicker of doubt, was a crack, and Sarah's trust wavered. Her unit's betrayal still raw, the hooded man's escape a threat, and she needed allies. Fast. The archive yielded a single memo, Reed to Vance. "Kane's a liability. Eliminate her." And Sarah's rage surged, her fingers clutching the paper, Shadow's growl a mirror of her fury. But the base's lockdown was a cage, MPs loyal to Reed patrolling, and Sarah slipped out, Shadow at her heels, moving to a secure bunker where Voss had stashed forensic gear. And the lawyer's voice was grim. "Sarah, the photos were doctored. Metadata points to Reed's office. But a new alert hit. Emily's house, a broken window, a note, back off or she's next." And Sarah's blood ran cold, her sister's safety a noose. And she called FBI agent Marcus Lee, a trusted contact from past missions, her voice steel. "Marcus, protect Emily. Trace Reed's accounts, now." But Lee's reply was stark. "Sarah, Vance is untouchable. Cartel ties, political cover. You're in deep." The bunker was a sanctuary, Shadow's warmth grounding her. But Reed's shadow loomed, his lies a blade, and Sarah's past flashed. Desert nights, Shadow at her side, their trust forged in blood, his eyes her anchor when comrades fell. And now, as the conspiracy tightened, Sarah's resolve hardened, her tears from the trial a memory, because Shadow's loyalty had saved her, and she'd save Emily. The truth, Blackridge's honor, no matter the plot, the base's silence was a warning. MPs circling, Voss's loyalty a question, and Sarah stood, Shadow at her sidearm ready, because the memo was a spark. But the war was far from won, the conspirators plotting, the truth a flame she'd guard, and Sarah Kane, the officer who'd faced execution, was ready to face the inferno. Her pain a forge, her bond with Shadow a crown, and this base her battlefield. The traitor's hand a specter she'd hunt, The path to justice, a fight she'd wage for her sister, her Dio, her soul. The desert night was a shroud of peril, its winds howling across the war-torn border, village where Captain Sarah Kane crouched behind a crumbling adobe wall. Her army fatigues dusted with sand, her dark hair matted with sweat, her green eyes sharp with a resolve forged in the crucible of betrayal, her heart a pounding drum because the secret tribunal's death sentence still haunted her. In shadow, her German Shepherd canine pressed close, his black and tan coat scarred from their battles, his ears pricked, his low growl a warning that danger was near. And Sarah's grip tightened on her sidearm, her mind racing with the truth she'd uncovered. Colonel Marcus Reed's forged evidence, tied to Colonel Vance, a high-ranking officer whose name whispered of war crimes. And Sarah, her narrow escape from execution fueling her, was here to find a witness, a villager who'd seen her protect, not harm, that fateful day. But the conspiracy's claws were closing. A scrawled note, "You are not free yet," and a broken window at her sister Emily's house searing her soul. And Sarah, her unit's silence a wound, knew this mission wasn't just for her honor, it was for Shadow, for Emily, for the truth, and she'd face the inferno, her pain a forge, her bond with Shadow a crown. The village was a ghost of its past, its mud brick homes pocked with bullet holes, the air thick with the reek of ash and the distant crack of gunfire. And Sarah, guided by FBI agent Marcus Lee's intel, moved toward a hidden safe house, Lee's voice crackling through her earpiece. Sarah, the witness, Amira, saw Vance's men torch the village. She's key, but Vance's mercenaries are hunting her. And Sarah's gut twisted, because Vance wasn't just a conspirator. He was a warlord, his black ops tied to cartel money, his frame-up of Sarah a shield for his atrocities. And the memo from Reed, Kane's a liability, eliminate her, was a death warrant. But Shadow's sudden snarl snapped her focus, his body tensing, his barks erupting, a deep, resonant warning that echoed through the ruins. And Sarah dove, a sniper's bullet grazing her shoulder, blood seeping, and mercenaries, hooded, armed with rifles, swarmed from the shadows, their boots pounding, their radios crackling. "Take her out!" But Shadow surged, his teeth sinking into a mercenary's leg, a scream splitting the night. And Sarah fired, her shots precise, dropping another, her pain a forge, her voice roaring, "Shadow, flank!" The German Shepherd darted, his movements a blur, his barks a beacon, drawing the mercenary's fire, giving Sarah seconds to drag Amira, a frail woman, her eyes wide with terror from a crumbling hut. Her voice a whisper, "You saved us. Vance burned our homes." And Sarah's heart surged, Amira's words a key to the truth. But the ambush intensified, grenades exploding, shrapnel tearing Sarah's sleeve, and Shadow's yelp pierced her soul, a bullet grazing his flank, blood matting his fur. But he didn't falter, his teeth snapping, toppling a mercenary, his loyalty a shield. And Sarah scooped Amira, her shoulder bleeding, her voice a vow. "We're getting out. Shadow, lead." The village was a killing ground, mercenaries closing, their rifles blazing, but Shadow's barks guided them through a maze of alleys, his instincts razor sharp, and Lee's chopper roared overhead, its spotlight flooding the ruins, MPs repelling, cuffs snapping, the mercenaries scattering. But one, a hooded man, radio crackling, escaped, his silhouette a promise of vengeance. And Sarah's blood chilled, because Vance's reach was a hydra, and Amira's testimony was a spark that threatened his empire. The safe house was a bunker, MPs guarding Amira, Sarah's shoulder stitched by a medic, Shadow's flank bandaged, his muzzle warm against her hand. And Sarah's voice broke, "You're my hero, boy." But Lee's face was grim. "Sarah, Amira's brother, Jamal, he was your witness too. But he's gone, vanished last night." And Sarah's heart sank. Jamal's knowledge of Vance's crimes a lost key, and the conspiracy deepened. A new threat striking, a coded message to Lee. Emily Kane's car rigged, and Sarah's blood froze, her sister's laughter from childhood flashing, a wound that bled anew, and she ordered, "Marcus, secure Emily, check her car, now." But Lee's warning, "Vance's men are inside the base." Sarah was a noose, and Sarah's trust wavered. Voss's hesitations a crack, her unit's betrayal a scar, and she needed answers. Fast. The safe house yielded a stolen file, Vance's orders to read, "Barry Kane, protect the operation." And Sarah's rage surged, her fingers clutching the paper, Shadow's growl a mirror of her fury. But the base was a trap. MPs loyal to Reed patrolling, and Sarah slipped out, Shadow at her heels, moving to a hidden armory where Lee had stashed surveillance gear, and Voss's voice was strained. "Sarah, Jamal's last call traced to Reed's office. He knew too much." But a new alert hit. Emily's car, a tampered brake line, narrowly diffused, and Sarah's heart seized, her sister's safety ablade, and she faced Lee, her voice steel. "Find Jamal. Marcus, Vance won't stop." The armory was a sanctuary, Shadow's warmth grounding her. But Vance's shadow loomed, his lies a guillotine, and Sarah's past flashed, desert dawns, Shadow at her side, their trust forged in blood, his eyes her compass when hope faded. And now, as the conspiracy tightened, Sarah's resolve hardened, her tears from the trial a memory, because Shadow's loyalty had saved her, and she'd saved Jamal. Emily. The truth. No matter the why. The base's silence was a warning, MPs circling, Voss's loyalty a question. And Sarah stood, Shadow at her sidearm ready, because the file was a spark. But the war was far from won, the conspirators plotting, the truth a flame she'd guard. And Sarah Kane, the officer who'd faced execution, was ready to face the inferno, her pain a forge, her bond with Shadow a crown, and this village her battlefield. The traitor's hand, a specter she'd hunt, the path to justice a fight she'd wage for her sister, her dito, her soul. The borderlands were a fractured wasteland, their rocky hills veiled in a suffocating mist of smoke and ash, the air heavy with the reek of scorched earth and the intermittent pop of distant gunfire. As Captain Sarah Kane edged through a ravaged canyon, her army fatigues ripped at the knees, her dark hair plastered with sweat beneath a dented helmet, her green eyes alight with a resolve honed by betrayal, her heart a racing pulse because the secret tribunal's death sentence still lingered like a ghost. And Shadow, her German shepherd canine, glided beside her, his black and tan coat scarred from their battles, his ears alert, his low growl a sentinel's alarm. And Sarah's grip tightened on her rifle, her mind burning with the conspiracy she'd unearthed, Colonel Vance's war crimes cloaked by the forged evidence that had nearly ended her. And Sarah, her escape from execution a spark, was here to find Jamal, a villager whose testimony could dismantle Vance's empire. But the conspirators' net was closing, a tampered brake line on her sister Emily's car, a stark warning. And Sarah, her unit's silence a raw wound, knew this mission wasn't just for her honor, it was for Shadow, for Emily, for the truth. And she'd brave the firestorm, her anguish a crucible, her bond with Shadow a beacon. The canyon was a death trap, its walls jagged with shrapnel scars, and Sarah, guided by FBI agent Marcus Lee's encrypted intel, crept toward a concealed bunker where Jamal was said to be hiding, Lee's voice crackling through her earpiece. "Sarah, Jamal saw Vance's squad slaughter civilians. He's your key, but mercenaries are on his trail." And Sarah's stomach churned, because Vance wasn't just a plotter. He was a predator. His black ops fueled by cartel wealth, his frame-up of Sarah a mask for his atrocities, and the memo, Kane's a liability, eliminate her, was a kill order. But Shadow's sharp snarl broke her focus, his body rigid, his barks exploding, a deep, resonant alert that bounced off the rocks. And Sarah dropped, a sniper's bullet grazing her cheek, blood trickling, and mercenaries, hooded, clutching assault rifles poured from the ridges. their boots pounding, their radios hissing. Take her out! But Shadow lunged, his teeth sinking into a mercenary's thigh, a scream shattering the dusk. And Sarah fired, her shots precise, felling another, her pain a crucible, her voice roaring, Shadow! Flank! The German shepherd wove through the fray, his movements a blur, his barks a clarion, drawing fire, giving Sarah a moment to scramble toward the bunker, her cheeks stinging, her breath labored. And she found Jamal, a lean man with fear in his eyes, his voice a rasp. Vance killed my family. You tried to save us. And Sarah's heart flared, his words a torch to burn the lies. But the ambush surged, a grenade blasting, shrapnel tearing Sarah's sleeve, and Shadow's yelp pierced her core, a bullet grazing his shoulder, blood matting his fur. But he pressed on, his teeth snapping, toppling a mercenary, his loyalty a fortress. And Sarah hauled Jamal, her cheek bleeding, her voice a vow. We're out! Shadow, lead! The borderlands were a gauntlet, mercenaries converging, their rifles roaring, but Shadow's barks carved a path through a labyrinth of crags, his instincts flawless, and Lee's chopper thundered above, its spotlight bathing the hills, MPs repelling, cuffs snapping, the mercenaries scattering. But one, a hooded man, radio crackling, slipped away, his shadow a vow of retribution. And Sarah's blood ran cold, because Vance's reach was a viper, and Jamal's testimony was a blaze that could consume his reign. The safe house was a concrete refuge, MPs guarding Jamal, Sarah's cheek stitched, Shadow's shoulder bandaged, his muzzle warm against her hand, and Sarah's voice cracked. You're my strength, boy. But Lee's face was taut. Sarah, Vance's lies are spreading. Your unit thinks you staged the video. And Sarah's fury ignited, because Vance's rumors were acid, seeping through the ranks. Colonel Reed's whispers turning comrades against her. And a new threat struck, a coded message to Lee. Emily Kane's apartment, rigged. And Sarah's heart shattered, Emily's childhood laughter flashing, a wound that bled fresh. And she ordered, Marcus, secure her place, now. But Lee's warning, Vance's insiders or MPs, boss Sarah, was a strangling vine, and Sarah's trust frayed, Major Elena Voss's hesitations a fracture, her unit's betrayal a gash, and she needed proof, desperately. The safe house yielded a stolen ledger, Vance's payments to Reed. Silence witnesses, frame Kane, and Sarah's fingers gripped the pages, Shadow's growl echoing her wrath. But the base was a maze. MPs loyal to Reed prowling, and Sarah slipped out, Shadow at her heels, moving to a covert intel hub where Lee had stashed decryption tools, and Voss's voice quavered. Sarah, Reed's covering for Vance. Encrypted logs show they met last week. But a new alert hit, Emily's apartment. A gas leak triggered, narrowly stopped, and Sarah's heart seized, her sister's safety a dagger, and she faced Lee, her voice iron. Crack those logs. Marcus, nail Vance. The hub was a haven, Shadow's warmth anchoring her, but Vance's shadow loomed, his lies a death knell, and Sarah's past surged, desert dawns, Shadow at her side, their trust a lifeline through chaos. His steady gaze her haven when despair loomed, and now as the conspiracy coiled tighter, Sarah's resolve blazed, her tears from the trial a faded echo, because Shadow's loyalty had pulled her from the abyss, and she'd rescue Emily, Jamal, the truth, no matter the cost. The base's silence was a predator, MPs lurking, Voss's loyalty a gamble, and Sarah stood, Shadow at her side, her rifle primed, because the ledger was a flare. But the war was far from won, her enemies scheming, the truth a torch she'd wield, and Sarah Kane, the officer who'd defied death, was ready to storm the darkness. Her scars a testament, her bond with Shadow a vow, and this perilous frontier her crucible, where she'd forged justice for her sister, her dog, her redemption, with every step a defiance of the shadows that sought to break her. The military base was a fortress of deceit, its concrete corridors cloaked in sterile fluorescent light, the air heavy with the tang of metal and the faint buzz of encrypted radios. As Captain Sarah Kane crouched in a darkened armory, her army fatigues dusted with borderland grit, her dark hair pulled taut, her green eyes glinting with a resolve sharpened by betrayal, her heart a hammering forge because the secret tribunal's death sentence still haunted her nightmares. In shadow, her German Shepherd K9 stood vigilant, his black and tan coat scarred from their battles, his ears twitching, his low growl a sentinel's alert, and Sarah's fingers gripped a tactical map, her mind racing with the conspiracy she'd unraveled. Colonel Vance's war crimes, masked by the forged evidence that had nearly ended her. In Sarah, her escape from execution, a spark, was now orchestrating a sting to trap Vance's mercenaries, whose testimony could bury him. But the conspirators' web was tightening. A gas leak at her sister Emily's apartment, a chilling warning. And Sarah, her unit's silence a gaping wound, knew this operation wasn't just for her honor, it was for Shadow, for Emily, for the truth. And she'd braved the maelstrom, her anguish a crucible, her bond with Shadow a lifeline. The armory was a war room, its walls lined with rifles. And Sarah, guided by FBI agent Marcus Lee's intel, finalized the sting with Major Elena Voss, her lawyer, whose loyalty was still a gamble. Lee's voice low. Sarah, we've tracked Vance's mercenaries to a supply drop. Tonight, we take them, get their confessions. And Sarah's pulse quickened, because Vance wasn't just a mastermind. He was a specter, his black ops funded by cartel gold, his frame-up of Sarah a shield for his massacres, and the ledger, silence witnesses, frame Kane, was a death knell. But Shadow's sudden bark shattered the quiet, his nose sniffing a crate, his paws clawing, and Sarah froze, her heart lurching as Shadow's barks grew frantic, his teeth tugging at a panel, revealing a hidden explosive, wires, a timer ticking, 10 minutes left, and Sarah's blood ran cold, her voice a shout. Clear the armory, now! Shadow's instincts had saved them, his barks a clarion as MPs evacuated, a bomb tech disarming the device with seconds to spare, and Sarah knelt, her hands stroking Shadow's scarred coat, her voice a whisper. You're my guardian, boy. But Lee's face was grim. Sarah, that bomb was Vance's. His mercenaries are closer than we thought. The sting was a high-wire act. The supply drop set in a deserted motor pool under a moonless sky, and Sarah led Shadow through the shadows. Lee's team in position, Voss monitoring comms. But Vance's mercenaries were predators. Their ambush erupting, flashbangs blinding, rifles roaring, a bullet grazing Sarah's thigh, blood soaking her fatigues, and Shadow surged, his teeth sinking into a mercenary's wrist, a scream splitting the night, and Sarah fired, her shots precise, dropping another, her pain a crucible, her voice roaring. Shadow, hold! The German Shepherd weaved through the chaos, his barks a beacon, pinning a mercenary, giving Lee's team time to cuff 3, their confessions spilling. Vance paid us to frame Kane, torch villages, and Sarah's heart surged, their words a sledgehammer to Vance's lies. But the victory was fleeting, a mercenary's radio crackling. Vance is gone, abort, and Sarah's gut twisted, because Vance had slipped the net. His Shadow a venomous threat, and the motor pool was a war zone, MPs securing the captives. But a new blow landed, a coded message to Lee. Emily Kane's workplace, wired, and Sarah's heart shattered. Emily's gentle voice from their last call, Sarah, stay safe, a wound that bled fresh, and she ordered, Marcus, get to her office, now. But Lee's warning, Vance's MPs are blocking us. Sarah, was a vice, and Sarah's trust frayed. Voss's hesitations a splinter, her unit's betrayal a geshboman, and she needed leverage, fast. The safe house yielded a decrypted log, Vance's orders to read, eliminate Kane, secure the cartel, and Sarah's fingers clenched the printout. Shadow's growl mirroring her rage. But the base was a gauntlet. MPs loyal to Reed prowling. And Sarah slipped out, Shadow at her heels, moving to a hidden surveillance post where Lee had stashed tracking gear. And Voss's voice quavered. Sarah, Reed's covering for Vance. Encrypted calls to a cartel contact. But a new alert struck. Emily's office? A rigged vent, narrowly diffused. And Sarah's heart seized. Her sister's safety a guillotine. And she faced Lee, her voice iron. Track those calls, Marcus. Find Vance. The post was a refuge, Shadow's warmth anchoring her. But Vance's shadow loomed, his lies a death sentence. And Sarah's past flashed, desert patrols, Shadow at her side, their trust a shield through ambushes. His steady gaze her salvation when despair loomed. And now, as the conspiracy coiled tighter, Sarah's resolve blazed. Her tears from the trial a distant echo, because Shadow's loyalty had pulled her from the abyss, and she'd rescue Emily. The truth, the villager's honor, no matter the cost. The base's silence was a predator. MPs lurking, Voss's loyalty a gamble. And Sarah stood, Shadow at her side, her rifle primed. Because the log was a flare, but the war was far from won. Her enemies weaving their plots. The truth a beacon she'd shield. And Sarah Kane, the officer who'd defied death, was ready to pierce the darkness. Her scars a badge, her bond with Shadow a vow, and this shadowed base her proving ground, where she'd carve a path to justice for her sister, her doistao, her redemption, with every breath a challenge to the forces that sought to silence her. The military base's classified briefing chamber was a vault of tension, its steel walls reverberating with the weight of guarded secrets, the air thick with the scent of antiseptic and the muted hum of encrypted comms. As Captain Sarah Kane stood before a closed council of senior officers, her army fatigues patched from borderland battles, her dark hair pulled tight, her green eyes blazing with a resolve forged in the crucible of betrayal, her heart a thundering pulse because the secret tribunal's death sentence still haunted her. And Shadow, her German Shepherd canine, sat alert at her side, his black and tan coat scarred from their wars, his ears pricked, his low growl a quiet warning, and Sarah's fingers clutched a dossier of stolen evidence, Colonel Vance's war crimes, unmasked by the camera footage that had saved her life. And Sarah, her escape from execution a flicker of light, was here to expose Vance's conspiracy in this clandestine hearing. But the conspirators' grip was unrelenting. A rigged vent at her sister Emily's office a fresh wound, and Sarah, her unit's fractured loyalty a raw scar, knew this stand wasn't just for her honor, it was for Shadow, for Emily, for the truth. And she'd face the tempest, her anguish a crucible, her bond with Shadow a lodestar. The chamber was a crucible. The council, generals, admirals, their faces etched with skepticism, seated in a semicircle. General Amos Tate presiding, his grizzled features unreadable, and Sarah's voice rang clear. Vance ordered civilian massacres, framed me to silence the truth. This dossier proves it, presenting the ledger, decrypted logs, and mercenary confessions, her words a blade. But Colonel Marcus Reed, the prosecutor, now a council member, sneered. Fabrications. Captain, your video's a stunt. And Sarah's blood surged, because Reed's lies were a venom, his allegiance to Vance a poison spreading through the ranks. And the council stirred, a general muttering. She's reckless. But Shadow's sudden bark sliced the air, his body tensing, his nose sniffing the chamber's vent, and Sarah's heart lurched, her voice a shout. Shadow, check! The German Shepherd darted, his barks frantic, his paws clawing at the vent, revealing a rigged gas canister, chemical, hissing, seconds from release, and Sarah's blood froze, her voice roaring. Evacuate! Now! Shadow's instincts had saved them, his barks a clarion as MPs yanked the canister, a hazmat team neutralizing it, and Sarah knelt, her hands stroking Shadow's scarred coat, her voice a whisper. "You're my savior, boy." But Tate's face darkened. Who planted this? And Sarah's gaze locked on Reed, his eyes flickering, a crack in his mask, and the counsel's doubt shifted, a general nodding. She's on to something. The hearing resumed. Sarah's evidence, Jamal's testimony, log payments to Reed, swaying the counsel, Tate ordering, investigate Vance, discreetly. But danger erupted. A rogue MP, Vance's loyalist, lunging from the gallery, his knife flashing, aimed at Sarah's chest, and Shadow surged, his teeth sinking into the MP's arm, a scream splitting the chamber, and Sarah tackled the attacker, her thigh wound aching, her fists pinning him, her voice a snarl. "Who sent you?" The MP spat. "Vance owns us." And MPs cuffed him, the counsel gasping, their trust in Sarah solidifying. But Reed's voice cut through. "She's destabilizing the chain of command." And Sarah's rage flared, her voice a whip. "You're shielding a murderer, Reed." Well, the council adjourned, Tate assigning MPs to guard Sarah. But a new threat landed, a coded message to Lee. Emily Kane's safe house, compromised. And Sarah's heart shattered. Emily's voice from a call, "Sarah, I trust you," a wound that bled anew. And she ordered, "Marcus, secure her now." But Lee's warning, Vance's loyalists are MPs. Sarah was a stranglehold, and Sarah's trust wavered. Voss's hesitations a shadow, her unit's betrayal a gash, and she needed a breakthrough, urgently. The safe house yielded a tapped call, Vance to Reed, "Eliminate Kane, secure the deal," and Sarah's fingers gripped the transcript. Shadow's growl echoing her fury, but the base was a gauntlet, MPs loyal to Reed prowling, and Sarah slipped out, Shadow at her heels, moving to a covert ops room where Lee had stashed hacking gear, and Voss's voice quavered. "Sarah, Vance's cartel contact is stateside. Reed's meeting them." But a new alert struck. Emily's safe house. A breached lock, narrowly stopped, and Sarah's heart seized. Her sister's safety a guillotine, and she faced Lee, her voice iron. "Hack their comms, Marcus, find Vance." The ops room was a refuge, Shadow's warmth anchoring her, but Vance's shadow loomed, his lies a death knell, and Sarah's past flashed, desert nights, Shadow at her side, their trust a bulwark through chaos, his steady gaze her refuge when despair loomed, and now, as the conspiracy coiled tighter, Sarah's resolve blazed, her tears from the trial a distant echo, because Shadow's loyalty had pulled her from the abyss, and she'd rescue Emily, the truth, the villager's honor, no matter the cost. The base's silence was a predator, MPs lurking, Voss's loyalty a gamble, and Sarah stood, Shadow at her side, her rifle primed, because the call was a flare. But the war was far from won, her enemies weaving their plots. The truth a beacon she'd shield, and Sarah Kane, the officer who defied death, was ready to breach the darkness, her scars a testament, her bond with Shadow an oath, and this sealed chamber her crucible, where she'd ignite justice for her sister, her dog, her redemption, with every heartbeat a defiance of the forces that sought to bury her. The military courtroom was a crucible of reckoning, its steel-lined walls pulsing with the weight of a verdict poised to reshape destinies, the air thick with the scent of polished oak and the taut silence of a dozen senior officers seated in the gallery, their medals glinting under stark lights. As Captain Sarah Kane stood at the defendant's table, her army fatigues pristine, her dark hair pulled tight, her green eyes a storm of defiance and hope, her heart a blazing furnace because the secret tribunal's original death sentence still lingered like a specter. And Shadow, her German Shepherd canine, sat vigilant at her side, his black and tan coat scarred from their battles, his ears alert, his steady gaze a beacon, and Sarah's fingers brushed his fur, her mind anchored by the evidence that had saved her, the hidden camera footage, mercenary confessions, and Jamal's testimony exposing Colonel Vance's war crimes. And Sarah, her escape from execution, a fragile dawn, was here for her retrial. A chance to shatter Vance's conspiracy, but the conspirator's shadow loomed. A breached lock at her sister Emily's safe house, a chilling echo. And Sarah, her unit's betrayal a raw scar, knew this moment wasn't just for her honor. It was for Shadow, for Emily, for the truth. And she'd face the maelstrom, her anguish a crucible, her bond with Shadow a shield. The chamber was a battlefield. General Amos Tate presiding, his grizzled face a mask of impartiality, and Major Elena Voss, Sarah's lawyer, stood firm, her voice sharp. The prosecution's case was built on lies. Vance framed Captain Kane to hide his massacres, presenting the dossier, stolen ledgers, intercepted calls, and Jamal's sworn account of Vance's village atrocities, and Sarah's heart surged, the evidence a sledgehammer. But Colonel Marcus Reed, the prosecutor, now a council member, countered with venom. This is a fabrication. Kane's a traitor. And Sarah's blood boiled because Reed's lies were a poison, his loyalty to Vance a cancer in the ranks, and the council stirred, a general muttering. She's got proof. But Shadow's sudden growl broke the tension, his body stiffening, his nose sniffing the gallery's edge, and Sarah's pulse spiked, her voice a hiss. Shadow, check! The German shepherd darted, his barks a piercing alarm, his paws clawing at a panel, revealing a concealed stun grenade. Live, seconds from detonation, and Sarah's heart froze, her voice roaring. Clear the room! Shadow's instincts had saved them, his barks a clarion as MPs yanked the grenade, a tech disarming it, and Sarah knelt, her hands gripping Shadow's scarred coat, her voice a tremor. You're my miracle, boy. But Tate's face hardened. Who rigged this? And Sarah's gaze pierced Reed, his eyes darting, his composure cracking, and the council's trust shifted, a general nodding. She's clean. The retrial pressed on, Voss calling Jamal, his voice steady. Vance burned our homes. Kane saved us. And the video replayed. Sarah's orders to protect. Shadow shielding civilians, silencing Reed's objections, and the council's murmurs grew. Tate's voice resolute. Captain Kane, you are exonerated. Charges dismissed. And Sarah's breath caught, tears welling. Shadow's muzzle nudging her hand, a lifeline through the storm. But Reed's snarl, this isn't over, was a warning, and Tate ordered, arrest Colonel Vance, now. Dispatching MPs, and Sarah's heart soared. The truth ablaze, but danger struck, a new message to Lee. Emily Kane's escort, compromised, and Sarah's heart shattered. Emily's gentle laugh from their last call a wound, and she ordered, Marcus, secure her, now. But Lee's warning, Vance's loyalists are embedded. Sarah was a chokehold, and Sarah's trust wavered. Voss's hesitations a shadow, her unit's betrayal a gash, and she needed closure, fast. The MPs returned, Vance in cuffs, his cold eyes locking on Sarah, his voice a hiss. You'll pay, Kane. But his cartel logs, seized in a raid, sealed his fate, and the council honored Shadow, Tate pinning a commendation to his collar. For valor, and Sarah's tears fell, her voice a whisper. You're my hero. But a new threat emerged, a coded signal to Lee. Vance's men, retaliation planned, and Sarah's blood chilled, her sister's safety a guillotine, and she faced Voss, her voice iron. Elena, find their network, end this. The safe house was a stronghold, MPs guarding Emily, Sarah's wounds tended, Shadow's warmth grounding her. But Reed's shadow lingered, his role unclear, and Lee's voice was grim. Sarah, Vance's loyalists are planning something. MPs are suspect. And Sarah's resolve hardened, her past flashing, desert nights, Shadow at her side, their trust a fortress through chaos, his steady gaze her salvation when despair loomed. And now, as the conspiracy unraveled, Sarah's heart blazed, her tears from the trial a memory, because Shadow's loyalty had pulled her from the abyss, and she'd protect Emily, the truth, the villagers' honor, no matter the cost. The base's silence was a predator, MPs circling, Voss's loyalty a gamble, and Sarah stood, Shadow at her side, her rifle primed, because the verdict was a dawn. But the war was far from won. Her enemies plotting, the truth a flame she'd shield, and Sarah Kane, the officer who'd defied death, was ready to face the abyss. Her scars a testament, her bond with Shadow an unbreakable vow, and this base her crucible, where she'd forge a legacy of justice for her sister, her dog, her redemption, with every step a testament to the light that burned within her, unyielding against the darkness that sought to consume her. The military base was a bastion of renewal, its concrete corridors no longer shadowed by deceit, but alive with the hum of purpose. The air crisp with the scent of fresh paint and the steady rhythm of disciplined boots. As Captain Sarah Kane stood on a training field, her army fatigues emblazoned with a new insignia, her dark hair loose in the dawn breeze, her green eyes radiant with a peace hard-won through betrayal's fire, her heart a glowing ember because the secret tribunal's death sentence was a fading nightmare. And Shadow, her German Shepherd K9, bounded beside her, his black and tan coat gleaming despite scars, his tail wagging, his steady gaze a testament to their unbreakable bond. And Sarah's fingers brushed his fur, her mind anchored by the victories they'd forged. Colonel Vance's arrest, his war crimes exposed, her exoneration sealed, and Sarah, her escape from execution a distant echo, was now training a new K9 unit, her purpose reborn. But the cost lingered. A breached safe house threatening her sister Emily, a wound that still ached. And Sarah, her unit's restored faith a fragile gift, knew this moment wasn't just a triumph, it was a legacy, for Shadow, for Emily, for the truth, and she'd carry it forward, her scars a badge, her bond with Shadow a guiding star. The field was a proving ground, young handlers and their dogs mirroring Sarah's commands, Shadow leading with precision, his barks a clarion, and General Amos Tate, once her judge, observed, his grizzled face softened, his voice gruff. Kane, you've rebuilt trust, Shadow's a hero, and Sarah's heart swelled, because the council's verdict, her innocence, Vance's guilt, had sparked reforms, transparent investigations, civilian oversight, and Vance's prosecution. His cartel ties unraveled by FBI agent Marcus Lee's raids, and Major Elena Voss, her lawyer, now a trusted ally, stood beside her, her voice firm. Sarah, Reed's facing trial, your evidence nailed them. And Sarah's resolve flared, because Reed's lies, once a noose, were ashes. And the council's commendation, Shadow named a national hero, a medal pinned to his collar, drew tears, her voice a whisper. You're my everything, boy. But a new shadow flickered, a coded intercept to Lee. Vance's loyalists, planning sabotage. And Sarah's blood chilled, her sister's safety a lingering fear. Though Emily's voice from a recent call, Sarah, I'm safe thanks to you, was a balm. And Sarah vowed, Marcus, root them out, end this. The base was a fortress, MPs now vetted, Voss's loyalty proven, and Sarah's unit rallied. Their salutes a testament, but the past lingered. Desert nights, Shadow at her side, their trust a shield through ambushes. His gaze her anchor when despair loomed, and Sarah faced her fears. Nightmares of the tribunal's gavel, the firing squad's aim, and she knelt with Shadow, her hands stroking his fur, her voice steady. We're free, boy. No more shadows. And the training field glowed, handlers cheering as Shadow led a drill, his precision a symbol, and Lee's update was a spark. Sarah, Vance's loyalists are cornered, last cell, stateside, raided, and Sarah's heart soared, the conspiracy's final threads snapping, the military's reforms a beacon, and Tate's voice boomed. Kane, you're leading K9 Ops. Build the future. And Sarah nodded, her purpose clear. A legacy for the villagers, for justice. The safe house was a haven. Emily visiting, her embrace tight. You saved me, Sarah. And Sarah's tears fell. Her sister's safety a victory. And Shadow nuzzled Emily, his tail a blur, a bridge between past and present. And Sarah's past flashed. Desert dawns, Shadow's warmth, their trust a lifeline through chaos. His gaze her salvation when hope faded. And now, as the conspiracy lay in ruins, Sarah's resolve blazed, her tears from the trial a memory, because Shadow's loyalty had pulled her from the abyss, and she'd safeguarded Emily, the truth, the villagers' honor, no matter the cost. The base's silence was a promise. MP's loyal, Voss a rock, and Sarah stood, Shadow at her side, her rifle retired, because the verdict was a sunrise, and the war was won, her enemies vanquished. The truth a flame she'd kindled, and Sarah Kane, the officer who'd defied death, was ready to embrace the light, her scars a testament, her bond with Shadow an eternal vow, and this base her sanctuary, where she'd nurture justice for her sister, her dog, her redemption. With every breath a celebration of the hope that burned within her, a legacy forged in loyalty, unyielding against the darkness that had sought to break her. The training field was alive, Shadow leading, the future bright, and Sarah's heart was whole. Her sister safe, her unit united, and Shadow, the hero who'd saved her, was her guiding star, a symbol of truth's triumph, forever at her side. From a web of hidden lies to a blazing triumph of justice, Sarah and Shadow's unbreakable bond exposed corruption and restored honor. Share their story and celebrate the power of loyalty and truth.